Welcome to ValueMetrics.tv, powered by ValueMetrics.ai. Today we have a wonderful guest with us, Ajo Jose, who has been in CHRO for many, many years, who has seen pretty much the entire spectrum of the industry in the HR space. And today he's blessing our podcast with his timeless wisdom. Welcome, Ajo, to our show. I would request you to kindly introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I'm an executive leader with around 2 decades of experience driving organizational growth through great people strategies. My expertise lies in building HR functions from the ground up at major organizations, including Fortune 500 organizations and unicorn startups. I've spearheaded large-scale transformations from M&A integration and digital HR overhauls to creating a great place to work environments across the manufacturing, EPC, renewable infrastructure, and service industries. I have a track record of aligning human capital with organization vision, significantly reducing cost, improving retention, and leading teams to excel. I'm excited to be here to share some of those insights.
What are the biggest shifts that you witnessed in how organizations typically approach talent in, let's say, past 5 years?
So when we talk about say the last 5 years, the single biggest shift is the move from an experience-based reactive process to data-driven functions. For decades, hiring was based on resumes, gut feeling, etc. Now organizations see TA as a strategic lever for advantage. They are using data and AI not just to fill roles faster, but to analyze applicant success, map future skill gaps, and build more resilient teams. It is actually a shift from evaluating an applicant's past to analyzing their future prospects.
So hiring is something that is looked upon and is at least the candidates are vetted through AI now, and it's very different approach that the organizations follow. So there's also a talk that AI is now replacing recruiters and everything's going to happen through AI. Do you see that happening, or is it just a hype?
It's largely hype, but with some truth. AI won't replace recruiters, but it will radically redefine the recruiter's role. Because the transactional tasks of sourcing or screening or scheduling will be almost like entirely automated. So this will free up recruiters to become more strategic talent advisors. Like their value will shift to building up relationships by selling the company's vision to top talent, advising hiring managers on team dynamics, but mitigation and effective interviewing, designing a human-centric, empathetic applicant journey, all that which AI cannot create.
What is the biggest challenge in assessing cultural alignment when it comes to hiring somebody?
See, the biggest challenge in that is often a subconscious synonym for people like us. It's assessed through gut feeling and subjective interviews, which are riddled with bias. So when organizations get it wrong, they don't just have a disengaged employee. Mishire, based on flawed fit, can breed toxicity, lower psychological safety, and ultimately lead to the attrition of your best people, who won't accept a negative environment. So the solution uh, here is to what new perspective, working style, or background does this applicant bring that will make the team stronger and more dynamic.
So just picking onto that part where, we're talking about building strong teams, building cohesive teams. Now, what happens is that let's say an organization has gone through a proper vetting process and the interviews are done, and according to you, this person is the right fit for the organization. But the moment they are put into a team, there's a possibility it might work or might not work. So team chemistry is always guesswork. So what kind of data should be observed before we hire somebody for a particular team?
See, the major obstacle here is that we have historically hired individuals for role vacancy and not team fitment. Okay, so we look at an applicant in isolation again against a job role. So we are absolutely missing the essential data here. We have vast amount of untapped data on how our present teams work. Like data can show how people work under pressure, how they hit deadlines, etc. AI can analyze this data to model the DNA of a successful team and help identify those applicants who fill in the gap in that DNA.
There's another issue that often comes up is, let's say if I am a candidate and I have been shown a very rosy picture of an organization or a very different image of the organization, but the moment you enter, it's a different scenario altogether. So companies invest a lot in employer branding, but often they do not really reflect the true nature of the company, the true experience that an employee will have later on. So, how can we make sure that our brand is genuinely reflecting what our values are, what our belief systems are, so we're not mishiring? So, another interesting word you used here was investment. So, we invest a lot in branding, we invest in culture, we invest in employee growth, in human capital for that matter. How do we measure this return when it comes to culture, when it comes to team dynamics?
See, here we are desperately missing the right metrics. We track lagging indicators like turnover, but we need actually the leading indicators. The ROI is measured indirectly through its impact on output. So, like we should measure actually team velocity, project execution rates, and goal achievement. We should track the number of new ideas generated or process improvements implemented by different teams. We should focus on employee retention analysis and ask, do hires selected for team gap filling have higher retention rates at the 1, 2, and 3 year marks? Or we should move beyond annual surveys actually, to move on to a frequent checks and correlate actually this data with team output. And we should probably use organizational network analysis again here, to see who is sought out for advice, who is isolated, and how information flows, etc., etc. Because healthy teams often have strong diverse networks.
So let's also talk about when we're hiring people, the way we hire is we take interviews, we have conducted basic tests, the aptitude test, the attitude test. Uh, but how do we really predict the long-term success of a particular candidate in the organization? So is it possible to do so?
See here, their biggest limitation is that they are uh, profoundly artificial environments, that measure output, in a high pressure unnatural setting. They favor those who are good at interviewing, not necessarily those who are good at the job. So when we talk about interviews, it's rather plagued by unconscious bias, and applicants can give a rehearsed answer. They tell you how an applicant is in an interview, but not exactly how they are in a job. When we talk about the basic test, it also often measures a narrow silver of hard skills or ability in a vacuum, often disconnect from the real world context of ambiguity or pressure, etc. They fail to measure the ability to grow, adapt, and solve novel problems.
So what is your definition of a great team? What characteristics do you prioritize?
See, my definition has evolved, from a group of individuals to rather a resilient, adaptive, and psychologically safe team, or we can say. Because here, what I find is the key characteristics which I now prioritize are like psychological safety, because the number one analyzer of team effectiveness is psychological safety. Because can team members nowadays take risk without fear of embarrassment? Second would be say diversity, not just demographic diversity, but diversity in how people think, solve problems, and process information. Third would be say resilience, the ability to not just withstand stress, but to learn and grow from it.
What you truly look for are the softer skills which include resilience, emotional intelligence, empathy, uh, effective communication. These characterizes important skills for you. So how do we evaluate these when we're hiring a candidate? How do we figure out whether this person has a higher emotional intelligence than the others?
See, they have always been equally valuable. So if when we talk about hard skills are essential, or soft skills are also equally important. So they have always been equally valuable. We just now have the data to even prove it. So in a world where hard skills have a rapidly decreasing half life, soft skills are the ones that enable regular learning. So the shifts, this shifts actually hiring in two ways. We must assess them rigorously. We can no longer relegate them to a casual chat. Like we need structured interviews, we need situational judgment test, and we need work simulations. We must value them equally. Scoring rubrics for applicants must weigh soft skills as heavily as technical skills, because a brilliant operations guy who toxically derails a team here would be a net negative.
Whether they're successful or not successful in the journey, but uh, the experience is very important for people these days. So, what is the long-term impact of having a interesting candidate journey, having a positive candidate journey?
See here, because every applicant, is a future applicant and a brand amplifier. A negative experience, I can say, travels far and fast on social media and sites like Glassdoor, directly impacting your ability to attract top talent in the future. So here, a respectful rejection, rather, however, can leave an applicant with a good impression of your organization, making them more likely to apply again in the future, or recommend your organization to others. So that's equally important.
So, talking about the future, so let's say if you're looking 5 to 10 years ahead, what are the biggest shifts that you can foresee in how organizations will attract, assess, and secure top talent? What is the biggest advice for the CHROs or the future CHROs who are looking at this podcast right now? What is your biggest advice to them on how they can have robust hiring processes?
I would say start with ethics and not vendor list, because before we look at a single tool, establish an organization wide ethical framework for AI use. Like the biggest risk isn't implementing AI slowly, but implementing it irresponsibly and losing trust.
If you could debunk one myth about AI in recruitment, what would it be?
The myth, I would say, AI is neutral, uh, because the truth is AI is a reflection. It reflects the data, priorities, and the biases of humans to build and train. It is a good tool, but it is not a neutral judge actually. So the goal of ethical AI is not to achieve perfect neutrality, but to create a process, which is more fair, transparent. Uh, so that's why I would say it's a myth that AI is neutral, but the truth is AI is a reflection.
Wow, that's one key takeaway for me today that AI is not neutral, it's actually reflection. On that note, thank you so much, Ajo. I had such a wonderful time talking to you about recruitment and these amazing hiring practices, about building genuine relationships while recruiting. We're so grateful for your time and so thankful that you blessed this podcast with your wisdom today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you. It was great interacting with you. Thank you.